I think my real interest, if I traced it back, was curiosity about the physical world, which is what physics is.
One might imagine, at least, that one's talking about nature when one's talking about the character of physical laws. But I don't want to talk about nature, but rather how we stand relative to nature now. I want to tell you what we think we know, and what there is to guess, and how one goes about guessing.
This is the piece of the equation which describes how the Higgs field acquires its value.
So welcome to the edition number 58 of the Physics Matter Colloquia series on development. So my name is Christine Darv. I work at the European Spallation Source in Sweden, and I also had the privilege to serve as chair of the Forum of International Physics, so the FIP at the American Physical Society, which support this series. So each month, our Physics Matters brings together a worldwide audience through engaging popular science colloquia. So our goal is to strengthen capacity building in developing regions while highlighting the essential role of large-scale research infrastructure such as the Sesame Light Source, so in journal, in advancing science and society. And today, so I would like to take a moment as well to remember Erwin Schopper, the father of the Sesame Light Source, who sadly passed away, so last week, at the age of 101 years old. So his life really showed a deep commitment to science and science diplomacy, how it can inspire others and lead to a long and meaningful life. So this month, so we continue our virtual journey across Africa. And last month, we were live in Benin with Professor Thierry D'Almeida. And he was speaking about the different material science and the social economical challenge facing Africa. So in the coming months, so we'll be also visiting different countries in Africa, so which are often in partnerships with UNESCO, and later this year, so we'll also close this International Year of Quantum Science and Technology with Professor Ana Maria Seto, who is the chair of this International Year of Quantum, and she is the chair of that steering committee. So it's a very exciting and diverse program that we'll have, and you can share and see all of that on our website and on the YouTube channel. So for the panelists today, so we have the honor to have with us so Andrea Lossi, who is the science director of the Sesame. We have also Stefan Kenmore from the University of Dawson-Essen, who is also the editor-in-chief of the FIP newsletter. And we'll have certainly as well Alan Hurd from Los Alamos joining us a bit later. So today, so we will be live from South Africa. So, and we are joyful to welcome so Mdhluli, who is a postdoctoral researcher at the International Astronomical Union Office of the Astronomy for Development. So it's hosted at the South African Astronomy Observatory in Cape Town. So Dr. Joyful coordinates the flagship OAD project that uses astronomy to drive economical development, to promote mental health and well-being, and to build skill for sustainable livelihood. So she received her PhD in physics from the University of Wits, and she was contributing also to the ALICE experiment at CERN, so for the LHC. So beyond the research, so she's an active science communicator and leader in education and policy. So she served as an executive secretary of Women in Physics in South Africa, and she's a member of the executive committee of the African Astronomical Society. And she sits in the editorial board of both the African Physics newsletter, so together with Stefan, and our communicating, so astronomy for the public journal. So this is how she is championing this inclusive and accessible science communication. So Dr. Joyful, we will leave you now the floor to introduce your presentation, and the question can be answered at the end of your presentation, and anyone can write those questions in the icon that you have under your screen. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christine. Such a pleasure and honor for me to be here today. I would like to firstly start by thanking the organizers and everyone on the panel for giving me this opportunity to speak about our work. So as mentioned, I am Joyful Mdhluli. I work at the International Astronomical Union's Office of Astronomy for Development. And today I'll be sharing a bit about the work that we do at the office and how we can use, how we use astronomy to impact lives beyond just the science. So physics has led to many transformative technological spin-offs, such as the microwave oven, which was originally derived from the radar research during World War II. Or some other examples include MRI machines, which apply principles of nuclear magnetic resonance to visualize internal body structures non-invasively. So these innovations showcase how fundamental physics can ripple into everyday life, revolutionizing both domestic convenience as well as medical diagnostics. If we now zoom into astronomy, astronomy has also catalyzed a number of transformative technological advancements that reach far more than their applications beyond the domain of astronomy. For example, charged coupled devices initially were developed for capturing faint celestial light, now underpin digital cameras, as well as medical imaging systems such as the X-ray and MRI machines, like I mentioned in the previous slide. And then we also look at atomic clocks that are used for global positioning system satellites and global communications, birthed from the precise timekeeping techniques for astronomical observations. But furthermore, radio astronomy's signal processing innovations have influenced Wi-Fi and radar technologies. So these spin-offs are basically examples of how the role of astronomy innovations can play a role in reshaping technology and society. So then the question is, why astronomy? What's so special about astronomy? So astronomy benefits from its multidisciplinary approach from other sciences, and these include mathematics, physics, and chemistry, which are used to explain a lot of the celestial phenomena in the universe, while at the same time also contributing towards technology and skills in areas such as optics, electronics, as well as space science. But additionally, it also contributes towards areas that include culture and society. So astronomy has always been intertwined with the human culture, and it contributes in other areas in human culture as well as society. For example, with ancient civilizations, they use the night sky to navigate and use it for the calendar keeping as well. And now in modern advancements, it is used for space technology. Astronomy has always profoundly influenced human history, and it continues doing so. So which is why it makes it easy to study, as well as integrate in fields such as anthropology, where it also plays a crucial role when it comes to education and outreach, as well as it fosters curiosity and encourages people to engage a lot with scientific concepts while exploring the universe. So before I get into too much detail about the Office of Astronomy for Development, I thought I would start with telling you a bit about the International Astronomical Union. So the International Astronomical Union was founded in 1990. With the mission to promote and safeguard the science of astronomy, include research, communication, education, development through international cooperation. So the organization is made up of professional astronomers from all over the world who are at PhD level and beyond, and they're also active in professional research, education, and outreach in astronomy. It additionally has junior members, and altogether there's approximately 13,000 members from 85 member countries. For those who don't know this, the International Astronomical Union is basically the organization that denounced Pluto as a planet and named it a dwarf planet. So in order for them to basically, I mean, the IAU basically then recognized the untapped potential that lies in astronomy as a catalyst for sustainable development. So they took the bold step of institutionalizing the vision, and this was through the establishment of our office, the Office of Astronomy for Development. And here on this slide, we basically have the IAU strategic goals from 2020 to 2030. And as you can see in goal number 3, the IAU basically promotes the use of astronomy as a tool for development in every country. So like I mentioned 2 slides back, their mission is to promote and safeguard the science of astronomy, but also look at communication, education, and development. And in order for them to achieve this, they established various offices that focus on various topics. So the first one would be the Office of Astronomy for Education. So this looks at how astronomy education can be incorporated in education systems. And then there's a communication and outreach aspect of it. There's a dedicated office that looks at outreach, so the Office for Astronomy Outreach, and this office is based in Japan. And then we'll also have an office that looks at the training and mentoring of young astronomers. So the Office for Young Astronomers focuses on doing that. And then the oldest of the 4 offices is our office, the Office of Astronomy for Development, which is based here in South Africa in Cape Town. And then there's also a center that is dedicated to the protection of dark and quiet skies from satellite constellations. So the Office of Astronomy for Development is a joint project between the International Astronomical Union and the South African National Research Foundation with the support of our Department of Science, Technology and Innovation. The OAD was established in 2011 and we're based in Cape Town, South Africa at the South African Astronomical Observatory. Sorry. So the mission of the OAD is to basically help further the use of astronomy, including its practitioners, skills, and infrastructures as a tool to develop every country. So this is done by mobilizing the human and financial resources that are necessary in order to realize the field's scientific, technological, and cultural benefits to society. And this is primarily implemented through funding and coordinating projects that use astronomy as a tool to address issues related to sustainable development. And since we speak of sustainable development, we align a lot of the work that we do to the sustainable development goals, but we are not limited to them. We do also approach other ways when it comes to development. So throughout this presentation, I will be showcasing a lot of the projects that we funded to sort of kind of give an idea of what we mean when we talk about astronomy for development. So just like astronomy is a multidisciplinary field, we also have a multidisciplinary team. So on the slide, we basically have our director, Kevin Govender, who has a whole nuclear physics background, while our deputy director is in astrophysics, and our amazing office manager that just keeps the whole office together. And then we also have our operations manager that is responsible for the projects that I mentioned that we implement through our annual call for funding. And then there's myself who coordinates our flagship projects that I will give more context about in the next coming slides. And then we also have someone who leads our Astronomy for Mental Health project, which I will also talk about later. And then an important and very key aspect of this is also monitoring and evaluation, where we also have a dedicated person who looks into that. So in addition to our office, our core team, we also work very closely with the BRICS Intelligent Telescope Data Network team on the societal impact of astronomy in the BRICS countries. And they are hosted here in our office as well. So the BITDN project coordinator is Duduzile Kubeka, and she works closely with her colleagues Mulebure and Danielle Naidu, who help run the activities which include hackathons, community initiatives, as well as workshops. So since we are based in South Africa, but we are a global office, in order for us to be able to serve everyone equally, we have basically established 11 regional and language offices of astronomy for development. So these offices basically are used to improve the local understanding of how astronomy can address community-specific challenges, realize potential impact, as well as also amplify the contribution towards development. So these offices share our vision as the OAD, but also provide valuable local insights to the OAD, at the same time tailoring the activities to be specific in terms of regional, cultural, or linguistic needs. So we basically have offices in North America. We have them in the Andean region. In Europe, we have a Portuguese language office. We have an office in Southwest and Central Asia, East Asia, and the Chinese language. We have one in Arab world and Arabic language. in Southeast Asia, and then we have 3 of them on the African continent, 1 based in West Africa, East Africa, as well as the Southern Africa. Okay. So when we look at our in terms of our global footprint and impact, so the OAD has funded and coordinated a total of 236 projects. These have been carried out in 5 continents in over 112 countries. We have invested approximately 1.4 million euros in the projects and have reached over 2 million people through these projects. So we've also received over 1,600 proposals and successfully implemented 13 calls for proposals. This just basically means that we've been doing this for 13 years and we've been doing it successfully each year. So these projects have used astronomy, space-related topics to tackle challenges in their communities and regions in order for them to promote sustainable development as well as create a better society. We have worked with various groups of people, including community groups, nonprofits, astronomers, and other researchers, education and outreach specialists, as well as other experts from around the world. So whether it is trying to change a student's attitude towards STEM through the exciting lens of astronomy, or creating opportunities for rural entrepreneurs through astrotourism, which I'll also speak about later, astronomy basically can have a positive impact due to its deep cultural ties, as well as holding a popular imagination and natural affinity to multidisciplinary work. So this slide basically just shows a distribution of where all of the projects we funded are. Like I mentioned, we funded 236 projects. So you can see every pin represents a project that we funded in different countries. And altogether, there's 112 countries in this map. So we basically have 236 pins in 112 countries over 5 continents. And then this just gives an overview of the projects we normally tend to, because we have very limited funding, we tend to, if the proposal is really good, we tend to recommend it for funding. So should someone else have the funds to be able to support this project, then they would say that the project has been recommended by the OAD, and then someone else can fund it because we have very limited funding. And then some of the rejected projects, they're not necessarily because they were bad projects, but also because they did not focus too much on development, but they were more outreach or education focused. And since we have sister offices that support this, we'd rather recommend that they try submitting proposals to those offices rather than we support them, so we can focus on just strictly development. So this slide here basically shows the regional distribution of the projects we've supported. So as you can see, a lot of the projects received were from the sub-Saharan Africa, and we have also funded a majority of the projects from there, and they are also coming, the most recommended projects came from the sub-Saharan African region. So the aim of our work is to basically leverage the resources and expertise of astronomy to contribute meaningfully towards achieving the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And through the work that we've done so far and the projects that we funded, astronomy has basically contributed to 13 of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And you can see some of the examples within the boxes that we have here. For example, with the Astronomy for Mental Health project, that would be impacting SDG 3, but also we've had other projects that have looked at environmental awareness and light pollution reduction that would then impact life on land and affordable clean energy as well as climate change. And then this slide or this figure basically shows a distribution of the different goals that have been contributed towards, with the vast majority of them focusing on SDG 4, which looks at education. And then that is closely followed by a focus on reducing inequalities. And some of the examples that I'll be giving throughout the presentation will basically show how SDG 4 and SDG 10 and all of the other SDGs were impacted through the projects that we funded. So then in 2019, we basically, based on the experience that we had in supporting projects, as well as also reviewing more than 1,000 proposals, we identified 5 key themes that basically encapsulate the whole concept of astronomy for development. So these themes include stimulating economies, and then there's also astronomy for science diplomacy and knowledge, astronomy knowledge for skills for development, as well as addressing inequality. And the 5th one looks at astronomy, technology in astronomy. So in the next few slides, I'll basically be giving an overview of each of these themes, but also an example of a project that has been funded over the years. So the first thematic area is basically looking at sustainable local socioeconomic development through astronomy. So this theme aims to use an astronomical facility such as an observatory or planetarium as a hub to stimulate various socioeconomic benefits for local communities. So benefits could include job creation through astronomy-related tourism, community skills development, educational programs, stimulation of local innovation, or other alternative activities for the youth in order to keep structured development. So the establishment of such a facility in close collaboration with the relevant government, industry, and academic and development partners, also local and traditional leadership, normally ensures that there's sustainability within the initiative itself. So under this thematic area, we have a flagship project that focuses on astrotourism. So basically, astrotourism is just the intersection of astronomy and tourism, where people visit places for recreational activities, but now focusing mostly on the astronomy aspect. So astrotourism has become a niche travel industry that focuses a lot on celestial events, dark sky destinations, as well as space-related activities. And I will give more context about the flagship project later in the presentation. So a good example of what we mean when we say using astronomy as a tool for socioeconomic development would be this project that looks at Women Astropreneurs Collective. So this is a 2025 funded project. So it's currently ongoing this year. And the aim of this project was to basically address the gender gap in the workforce participation through astronomy-linked manufacturing. So the team had identified that many of the people graduate with physics degrees, but after that, they don't get employed. And the idea was to basically equip them with the skills in order for them to be able to go into manufacturing using the skills that they've gotten. They got from the training. So the activity in first generation female graduates to produce astronomy products and build entrepreneurial skills. So by astronomy products, we're talking about them creating telescopes for people who would then be interested in purchasing them and providing services for people who would be interested in stargazing and night sky related activities. And the impact from this is basically creating sustainable employment, also fostering women-led businesses into a niche but growing market. And then our second thematic area looks at science diplomacy through astronomy, where we celebrate our common humanity. So basically, this theme brings together the perspective of the beauty and the scale of the universe. So like most famously, the astronomer Carl Sagan described the Earth as a pale blue dot. So basically, he used the cosmic perspective in a way to inspire and influence how people interact with their fellow human beings and our planet. So this thematic area also aims to use the inspiring potential of astronomy to stimulate a sense of tolerance and common humanity. And then under this thematic area, we have a flagship project looking at astronomy for mental health. And basically, this project is focused on how we can harness the potential of astronomy, the inspirational potential of astronomy, and using it as a tool for improving people's mental health and well-being. And the overarching goal of this is to basically use astronomy to empower individuals as well as communities to reach their full potential. And then a good example of this is a project we funded in 2017. This project is called the Columbia Herpetia Astronomy for Peace in Cyprus. So basically, this project aimed to inspire children from Cyprus through astronomy to learn more about the science and the universe, at the same time promoting a culture of peace and nonviolence and facilitate contact between children from all of the communities of Cyprus. So the project basically conducted educational astronomy activities with the goal to inspire a sense of global citizenship under the same sky and to look beyond the borders and promote cultural exchange. So through this program, basically, children from Greek and Turkish communities came together in the buffer zone in Cyprus, and they learned about astronomy and the universe, while at the same time they learned about each other and their common history and heritage through fun games and activities. And then our third thematic area looks at astronomy knowledge and skills for development. So this theme basically looks at how we can use astronomical knowledge and skills used in astronomy to tackle development challenges. So this could include the methods, the techniques that are being used in the field, such as data handling, data analysis, and machine learning. And how can they then be used to basically tackle development challenges? So the flagship project under this is one that is known as Hackathons for Development. And the mission of this is basically to establish a mechanism that boosts developmental impact and data analytics. And this is achieved through hosted worldwide micro programs that are designed to hack the learning of skills very quickly, while at the same time trying to find innovative solutions to certain problems, and then also empowering the public to organize their own hackathons using our resources and also established programs. So examples of funded projects, one of them is AstroLab that is actually currently ongoing this week in South Africa at the University of Salt Lake. And basically, AstroLab aims to introduce students to scientific method through a practical hands-on astronomy laboratory that uses remote and online telescopes. So they basically leverage the excitement of astronomy as a gateway to STEM, but also it aims to increase students' interest in science and technology fields. So the project is designed for students and lecturers at universities that have very limited to no infrastructure to help them improve practical teaching capacity and also integrate AstroLab into the university curriculum so that they can have access to some form of laboratory experiences. So the expected outcomes from this project is basically to include greater student engagement when it comes to STEM, but also increase the number of students that pursue STEM careers and strengthen also teaching practices. And to achieve this, the project basically provides freely available course materials and resources. It also trains lecturers to deliver their own AstroLab, so it's not necessarily dependent on the organization or the project leaders to deliver training, but then they train trainers to then go deliver this in their respective universities and institutions. But then also at the same time, it's building a global network of educators who then support and learn from each other. And we've been supporting this project since 2014. And then another example would be a project that is on big data and data-driven innovations that we basically put into place to help solve social problems. So this project was funded in 2018, and the aim was to just build data analytics capacity in emerging countries through astronomy. And the activities included training students in research tools, astronomy, and big data techniques. So the impact was then to equip participants with transferable skills to address societal challenges. And another one of the projects that we've been funding for a couple of years now is the Pan-African School of Emerging Astronomers. So this one trains students and teachers across Africa in astronomy and data-driven skills. So through this workshops and hands-on activities, participants basically learn how to program, they learn research methods as well as telescope use. And the program fosters collaboration, critical thinking, as well as inspires scientific careers that strengthens Africa's role in global astronomy. And this is one of the projects that is actually led by our regional offices within Africa. So this is not even a direct OED project, but then we support them in some cases some finances to carry out the projects. So then the fourth thematic area looks, as I mentioned earlier, looks at addressing inequality. So a good example of this is a multi-year project that we supported called the Imager Project. And this project basically supports girls in rural Kenya and Uganda by reducing the number of dropout learners and encouraging them to participate in STEM activities, especially in astronomy and physics. So this is actually achieved through mentorship, providing scholarships to keep the girls in school, but also having Astro STEM workshops for them so they can engage in actual practical science activities. It also builds the program also builds confidence in these young girls because then they're also very active and they engage with the science itself, and then with the hopes that it will improve their academic performance and then also foster long-term engagement in science. And then the last thematic area we have is technology from astronomy. So here we have a 2023 OED funded project. This project looked at basically promoting STEM education through hands-on space science using experimental satellites. So students and teachers gained practical experience in coding, electronics, as well as space engineering, while also partnerships with local businesses fostered indigenous expertise that strengthened Ghana's role in this global space science. So like in the previous few slides already, I've like mentioned a few of the projects that we've funded and what kind of impact they have, but I'd like to highlight a few more of these projects in the next 3 slides. So for example, this one was a project where it was looking at She Speaks Science. So through our funding, basically, they were able to grow their network and movement and now reach over 100,000 readers in over 135 countries all over the globe. And this was all thanks to the small grant that was provided by the OED to get them started. They've then developed a network of volunteers who keep contributing towards the work that they're doing and improving on the work that they've already started. So basically the aim of our grants is to basically get people started with the hopes that they'll be able to sustain their projects moving forward. And another project, this is a project that we funded this year in 2025, and this looked at basically training unemployed youth people in St. Lucia to basically introduce astrotourism as a offering in St. Lucia, because currently St. Lucia is in the Caribbean, so there's a lot of boat cruises and cruise tourism around the area. So they have also very nice, pristine, nice skies. So introducing astrotourism is something that is lacking in the market. And this project basically will then empower people in creating jobs, as well as also providing opportunities for them to create other opportunities that would then benefit them economically. And then another project we funded was looking at how they introduce astronomy to young kids. So this, one of the project leaders basically wrote a comment saying that the sky is open to all of us and every child has the right to explore its wonders. So with the support of the IAU OED, the aim was to bring knowledge of astronomy to children with limited resources in India and inspiring curiosity and fostering a lifelong love for science and among young minds. So basically, to summarize all of that I've said in the past few minutes, basically the OED, I would say our key things would be, we have an annual call for proposals that is open to anyone and everyone from around the world. And then additionally, we have 3 key flagship projects. So one focuses on astrotourism, another focuses on astronomy for mental health, and then there's another one that looks at astronomy knowledge and skills. And most importantly, we have our regional and language offices that basically carry out the work of the OED in the specific region or in the specific language context. But then also a key thing from the OED is that we have partners. Partnership is very important in terms of expanding the work that we do, also expanding the impact that we have. So basically what we do at the OED can be summarized into this slide. So we have resources, we have training, we have a community, and then we also have implementation. So the resources would basically be guidelines that come from the projects we funded over the years. And we also have the case studies and evidence to show that these guidelines actually were built from this case study, from these case studies. But also importantly, we have a research aspect of it where we also try to publish the work of the OED and also from our projects, what we've learned from them and how what can be improved as well. And then the training, we are looking into having free online trainings, especially when it comes to astrotourism and astronomy for mental health, as well as using knowledge and skills where we empower people to be able to go do these activities on their own in their respective countries. But we also offer like training that is in person, but then that would obviously need to be funded because then there's a lot of admin that goes into organizing trainings for in-person participants. But also when we do have partners that have specific needs, we then customize the training to suit whatever the partner would like. For example, if it's a tourism company that would like to have training in astronomy so they can have astrotourism, that would be something that we then co-develop with the partner. And then we have a community that supports peer learning and support projects and activities by others, but also a space for collaboration. So not necessarily saying that in order for people to collaborate, they have to do it through the OED, but then we create a space where people can actually communicate with each other directly without having to go through us, because we have access to everyone from around the world and we want that access to be open to everyone so they can also access each other as well. And then in terms of implementation, then it goes back to proposal and planning support. So our annual call for proposals, we actually give support in terms of proposal writing and also planning their projects. But also the seed grant fund comes from the annual call for proposals. And then we also have a monitoring and evaluation support. And then also our regional offices play a key role when it comes to implementing the activities of the OED. Okay, so with astrotourism, like I mentioned, we look at how we can basically take advantage of the night sky for people to benefit in an economic way. So we've basically created resources that are targeted at various groups of people. So one looks at people who live in remote rural areas. How can they start their own nighttime activity or nighttime offering in order for them to boost their local economies? And then we've also done something similarly for people who already are in business but would like to incorporate night sky tourism. So there's a guide that then helps existing businesses who already have the existing infrastructure to basically add on astronomy as an additional offering to their tourism offerings. But then we also focused on communities that are surrounding observatories, because most of the time observatories always go to very remote rural places because they have access to the beautiful night skies, but there's also like less light pollution. There's also less radio signals when it's radio astronomy. So these kind of infrastructure, we look at how they can support communities around them in terms of using the observatory as a attraction point to these communities. So the guide basically looks at how people can basically work together with observatories around that. So this QR code basically sends you to an archive paper that summarizes all three of our resources. So if you're interested, you can just click on this QR code, but otherwise I can provide a link to our website that would just have all of this information. And then astronomy for mental health. So this one, we work in collaboration with researchers in the psychology and psychology space, because as much as we want to encourage people to use the night sky as a tool towards their mental well-being, it is very important that we have the scientific backing from people within the space. So we work in close collaboration with psychologists as well as psychiatrists. And we also have a number of resources that we've created. So we have a podcast on wellness. So this is for people who would like to link their meditation with night sky concepts. So there's like a few recordings on that. But we also have an astronomy for mental health guidelines that looks at if someone wants to host an intervention that looks at astronomy for mental health, it basically gives you pointers and ideas and suggestions on how you can go about hosting something like that. And then there's also like a nice narratives reference booklet. And this is basically helping people communicate astronomy for mental health. So if you're already someone who's an outreach practitioner and you just want to incorporate mental health into your outreach activities, this booklet would basically be an ideal place to start, because it gives you ideas of how you can actually sort of kind of like drop in certain aspects that would then leave people kind of like engaged with the content that you're given, but also at the same time have mental health benefits. So I would like to also point out two of our publications that I feel summarize a lot of the work that has been done by the OED. So the first one is one that was recently published this year in July, if I'm not mistaken, June, July. It's been a very long year. And basically this gives an overview of the OED and all of our activities most recently. And then the other publication was published in 2018, and this focuses more on the African continent, because as you had seen a couple of slides back, a lot of our work actually is funded within the African continent. So this publication basically was focusing on astronomy for development in the African continent. So both of these were published in as Nature Comments, and they basically give a really good summary of the OED. But there's a lot that goes into it, and this is just an overview of the work that we do here at the OED. So obviously partnerships are very important in such cases. We cannot do the work that we do without partners. So partnerships help us amplify our impact, also open doors to new ways in which we can apply astronomy for development. And as you can see in this image here, these are some of the organizations we've worked with over the years, and we've collaborated with as well. As you can see, there's also still very many open spaces in this little honeycomb of our partners. So if you are interested in being a partner with the OED, we're always open to exploring how we can work together and what can be done together, whether it's through astronomy or other sciences, and how we can bring them together to address certain development issues. So then in terms of everyone who's attending this, the question is, how can we then work together? So I read an article recently, actually, that says that according to Physics Today, they published it in 2015, where they said that there was a number of basically 297,000 to 772,000 physicists worldwide. And this is basically the total global number of potentially approaching 1 million people. This was like in 2024, they reported that we could potentially approach 1 million physicists in the world. So this represents a vast majority, or a vast globally distributed community that can play a very pivotal role in advancing the goals of our office, but also at the same time just advancing the concept of science for development. So just as astronomy is used as a tool for education, innovation, community empowerment, this can also be extended to other fields within the physics field, with its broad applications that go from energy to health to technology, as well as data science. These can all be used for sustainable development. So in terms of various ways in which we can work together, we're always looking for reviewers, expertise for reviewers. So all of the projects that we've had and all of the proposals we've received, we've always had an external panel of reviewers that actually review these projects. And they've been the ones that have been selecting the projects over the years. So the OAD just facilitates this process, but we actually have an external panel for reviewers. But also supporting our projects in one way or another. That's always something that we always welcome. And also spreading the word when it comes to astronomy for development, science for development. I think we don't talk enough about it, and we don't communicate enough about what what science can do for people, what role physics plays in everyday life. So this is where we could always work together on, but also collaborating in activities. One of the key activities that we have is hackathons and data science activities. So this is something that we can also look into, how we can potentially work together. So this is my last slide, and to wrap up everything, I would like to end this whole presentation with the following words. So basically, the stars unite us. Every culture has its own sky story. Astronomy is used in peace building, intercultural dialogue, as well as reconciliation. It promotes mutual respect and a shared sense of humanity. For example, if we look at this image here, we were a group of people from different backgrounds, different walks of life, races and cultures, but we all gathered together to enjoy the sunset. And at this point in time, we were connected to share this one moment in time, which was the sun setting over the horizon. And at the end, and this was basically an end of yet another day where it was full of business and a promise for a new day with the new opportunities. So in astrotourism, astronomy is used to bridge cultures through the sharing of rich and cultural heritage, while in astronomy for mental health, astronomy encourages the slowing down, the being present, and the reflecting, which are also very key principles in mindfulness practicing. So whether it is through silent stargazing in a refugee camp or a storytelling session under the Milky Way with tourists, astronomy basically brings people together. It gives us something bigger than ourselves together around, and in doing so, it nurtures trust, dialogue as well as social cohesion. So astronomy isn't just about space, it's also about people. We are all under the same sky, and that sky can also be used as a tool for change. So it is not necessarily only about understanding the stars, but also understanding about using it to build a better world, basically. This brings me to the presentation. A person here in Cape Town at the observatory, or you can visit our website, and our email address is here. And you can follow us on social media, but I would also like to extend the invitation to join us on Discord if you'd like to learn more about what astronomy for development is, and also just join the community of people who want to use science. Not all of them are astronomers, others are just astronomy enthusiasts, others are just normal scientists. And you're welcome to join this community to engage with people from all different walks of life and how they want to use science for a better world. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Joyful. What a wonderful message, space and people connected. Thanks a lot. Very comprehensible and very complete presentation of your work. So Thanks again. So we will then have the possibility to open the floor to questions. So we have already several of them who have been popping up. And we have as well our colleagues, so Sirius Walter, who came out to join, and Alan. Perfect.
Can I stop sharing my screen, or do I still need to keep it up?
I can just read maybe if you want. So the question for you, so that might be the easiest way. So the first question from our colleague, so Joe Lewis, so here at ESS. So speaking about astronomer and astronomy department, so they are frequently very active in outreach and education project. So do you think so that any other scientific discipline could learn from astronomy to be successful and embedding outreach as part of researchers' work?
I mean, the way we see it is mostly most of the time, astronomy is just so it's easier to get people to relate to the night sky over getting them to understand the concept of what a Large Hadron Collider is and colliding particles. I mean, it took me a while to explain to my family what I was doing during my PhD. And the other day I took them stargazing and they're like, oh, I know what you finally do now. I was like, well, it's two different things between my PhD and my current work. But then it made me realize as well that astronomy is more accessible to people. They can relate to it easier. So maybe in terms of outreach and education, I would just say that the easiest way would just to be incorporating other concepts from different other physics fields. So astronomy could be one of them, where you start with an astronomy session where you talk to them about astronomy, and then after that you include all of the other physics and all of the other sciences, because then they've already opened up to the idea of what science is. So I think it's just a nice gateway science to all of the other sciences.
That's a very good example. So, and indeed, we have been using a lot of the material where stars and all the sky can explain science. So I think there is a lot that also as an example can come from this field. So the second question, so from Fabrice Bado, so is explaining so that being a PhD student in astronomy, so he's from Burkina Faso, and his question is, so how can we organize activity in secondary school that do not require a lot of financial resources? So they have an association called Burkina Astronomy Official. So this is on Facebook, and a lot are using indeed Facebook in Africa. I think it's a good resource. And they are often limited by financial resources when it comes to organizing activities in secondary schools and college. So what do you think? What would you advise? So beyond the detailed books and maybe webpage that you showed.
Well, I'd actually like to refer that to the African Astronomical Society. So there is an actual outreach committee within the African Astronomical Society. So Burkina Faso is part of Africa, so that'll be the ideal organization to get in contact with. But you can email me and I'm happy to connect you to the right people. They would easily be able to provide resources that look at how you can do astronomy at a very limited budget, but also at the same time, they sometimes do have open calls for people who want to do outreach activities that are astronomy related. So if you maybe start following that organization, but also I'm happy to get you in touch with them in terms of getting you in touch with the outreach committee and then you can get involved with that and then can see what opportunities are available when it comes to outreach and education.
Very good. So, and then another question also from Vasio Mutsky, who is asking, so will you plan to create a mechanism to get investment for the credit of developing mental health? So any kind of existing or plan on that? Meaning gathering funding or maybe writing grants or something that connects to financial support.
Yeah, I mean, if I understand the question properly, is we're always looking for ways in which we can get investment to carry out our work. We constantly fundraising for funds for the office itself, but mostly we fundraising to then support other people doing the work. So a lot of our fundraising focuses on how we can support more projects and how we can basically support people with ideas. So we fundraise so we can continue providing funds to other people. But also at the same time, we do have we do work with universities as well. So in the research aspect of it, so if you're talking about credits in terms of does our work get credited? Yeah, and then we do that through publications.
Okay, very good. I see. So we have a question also from Professor Paul Wafo, so from Cameroon, and he's asking about the history. So the history of astronomy. So there are different sites in Africa, such as in Zimbabwe, so in Egypt, in Mali as well, where this does originate from. So do you have interest in that, and do you connect as well? Would you interact with people working in this history of science and astronomy in Africa?
The OAD itself does not directly interact with people who work on the history of science, unless, of course, if they want to use it as a tool to address some sort of development challenges within them. But the IAU itself does have a commission that focuses on cultural astronomy and the history of astronomy as well. So I know they recently had a conference in Melbourne, Australia in July. And that is where they had everyone who is doing cultural astronomy and indigenous astronomy. That was a opportunity and a platform for people to basically showcase this work. So if there is a community in Africa that is doing this, I think the ideal organization is the African Astronomical Society. They would be a great organization to work with and also to interact with when it comes to promoting the history of science and astronomy within the African continent.
So for the African part. So then we will have a question indeed also from Anji Gupta, who is asking, so being in India, so how can she join as well the Astronomical Society as a member, so in India, and maybe just like indeed sending some web page or connection, and because she want to have to gain exposure in the field as being as well an undergraduate student.
Yes, I just need to find that nice link that I had on my presentation to our Discord channel. I think that's a good place for you to join and meet people. I think we've had a few undergraduate, well, we have a few undergraduate students who are part of our Discord community, and we're always happy to just have people, I mean, who knows who you will meet within the community while you're there. So we're always happy to have everyone join our communities. But it's not necessarily something where you would be getting exposure to astronomy research, because we don't focus too much on astronomy research, but rather we focus on how we can use astronomy as a tool to address challenges around our communities. So we don't do too much astronomy research. But because the community does have people who are astronomers and researchers, then it would potentially lead to her meeting or him meeting someone who would then be able to guide them through the astronomy space. So I'll just leave the link to our Discord channel in the chat.
Excellent. And then we have as well from Niloufa Shokar, who is the president of the International Association for Physics Students, who were presenting here, so also under the Physics Matter colloquia a few months ago. And she's indeed related to this Memorandum of Understanding that has been signed also in 2021. So with the IAU Office, so for the Astronomic Outreach, and then the division of so for education, heritage, and outreach. So she understands that the IAPS and the OAD, so collaboration, so they did collaborated on astronomy for mental health initiative some times ago. And it's very exciting so to learn more about the work that you're doing, so your presentation. And she noticed as well several potential areas for further collaboration between the IAPS and the IAU. And this is, I think, something very interesting to develop in the future. So, and I think indeed, so that would be maybe also a call in general, so that more a statement, but I think we will connect more. How could more people connect with you? Indeed, is there a partnership? Is there a way for writing an MOU? Is there any financial request? How does this work?
It's different from one organization to the other. Some have the funds to partner with us through financially. For example, the development of radio astronomy in Africa, DARA, a UK-based organization. Our collaboration with them is that we run workshops on their annual networking sessions with their students, and the students submit proposals through our normal open call, and then DARA funds those students should they get nominated to be, should they get selected to be funded. So it varies from one organization to another. But with regards to the IAPS, I was actually looking for someone. I was looking for a contact because I've lost contact with the last person who spoke to you. So it'll be nice if you could actually send me an email because I was tasked with the difficult job of actually getting hold of someone there. So it would be really great to connect with you. But yeah, our collaborations vary from one organization to another. It just depends on what kind of partnership the person is looking for and how we can work together to basically further the concept of science for development, astronomy for development, physics for development. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly the way through. So maybe if you can stop sharing the screen, and then you will have the possibility to hear. So one former president as well of the IAPS. So with Sirius Walter, who will also from our team raise as well his question. This is your field, isn't it, Sirius?
Yes, exactly. So
Where do I stop sharing?
yeah, let me wait for you to stop sharing.
I don't know how to stop sharing. That's the thing. I'm just like, I'm looking for
Can
it.
I stop your share?
Because it just says share. It doesn't give me the option to stop it.
I cannot stop it. Maybe Christine Darf has to stop it.
Yeah. Oh, there it is. Okay, not bad. I was having a blonde moment right now.
Yes, concerning getting hold of IAPS, actually it's not so difficult. You just have to know who it is because they're all around. And you tend to run and bump into them more than you probably hope to from time to time. So they are around a lot. So don't worry too much. So with Niloufar being current president, me being the past president, there's a lot of people around. You can ask now. Now you know.
I literally sent an email like 2 weeks back. I don't know to who. I found it on the website.
It will probably reach someone. So
Okay.
from now on, you will not have any issues reaching out for sure. Worst case, you write Christine, and then she kicks my ass, and then I have to reply. Or
Yeah.
Niloufar does, but because she's the current president. So I have actually a question that we haven't had so far. So in your presentation, you were so motivated, so courageous from your heart. One could really feel how you love what you do by every little fiber of your body. And so my thought is, when was in the job you do right now the first moment where you thought, I'm doing the right thing here?
It was a week after I joined the office.
And what was it?
They took me stargazing in Sutherland. So a week after I joined the office, I was told we're going on a trip and we're going to the Northern Cape where the SALT telescope is. And when we got there, we had a lot of stargazing. That's when I realized that I actually don't look up enough. So it was very interesting because it's like I took a moment, and it was 6 months after my PhD. So there was still a lot of unresolved issues with just getting a PhD right there. But yeah, from there, I was like, okay, I wasn't aware of the fact that I actually did a whole PhD in physics, but I had zero contact with astronomy at all until that specific day. And then after spending 6 months at the office and actually learning about the work that they were doing, I realized that there's a whole community that is actually focusing on just directing our efforts and work in towards how can we use our science to actually better the world. And that is something that I think I connect a lot with, engaging with people on the ground, seeing what impact we have as scientists in their lives. So that's just, for me, was the moment when I was like, okay, I'm definitely in the right place.
Yes, absolutely. And astronomy has the easiest job because you just have to tell the people, look up, there's beautiful, beautiful stars above you, and then the rest is history. And in that sense, like outreach, it's the easiest part. And I had the same story being part of the CTAO and Magic collaboration who have the telescopes on La Palma. So, and the CTAO also builds a second site in Chile. So, and I was on shift there, and if you go outside and you can't see the hand in front of your eyes anymore, and then you wait for a couple of minutes, and then suddenly the star starts to glow with the Milky Way appearing on the night sky, although everything was dark beforehand. You know that science is beautiful, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's just an accessible science, astronomy. Like I think we
Absolutely.
have it in terms of communicating what we do, or at least communicating the science itself. It's very accessible.
Yeah, everywhere around us. So Stefan, maybe so you have as
Yeah,
well.
so I just want to continue the flow of questions. So there was a second question with Professor Wafo from Cameroon, who is actually our next speaker, right, in September. So Joyful, that's to you. So he's asking about more information about the funding institution. So I guess the writing is to get in contact with you, drop you an email, or you provided it in the chat already.
The funding situation.
The funding institutions.
Oh, the funding institutions.
Yeah.
Okay, so we are funded by the International Astronomical Union as well as the Department of Science and Technology and Innovation. So they provide funding for the office, and then from that we have funds dedicated to our annual call for proposals. And that happens, we open up our call every April, and then it goes through a whole process of selecting projects. And then after that, those that get selected only get funded the following year. So currently we're going through our selection process and review process, and then people will only find out the outcomes of it at the end of the year. So if it's, the funds one is still very tricky because we're also going through budget cuts as well. So we always open to working with people and supporting people and organizations, but it's very difficult in terms of saying that we do have funds to support other projects outside of our annual call and our flagship projects at the moment. But we're always happy to have conversations and discussions on how we can support each other.
So there's obviously a call for proposals somewhere in one of your websites, right?
Yeah. I'll just drop the link to our website, and it should have most of the information that is required. But again, happy to just also have a discussion outside of this meeting and give more details.
Yeah. And then there's now some people who are thanking you from Iraq. So it's actually Najah, and then she's saying she is saying thank you for your outstanding presentation. And then they are working hard actually in Iraq together with institutions specialized in tourism to make astrotourism a part of the tourism sector in Iraq and a component of economic development. And then more importantly, with the help of your valuable resources from the Office of Astronomy for Development. So do you know them?
Yeah, they recently joined our Discord server, and I also reached out to me recently. So in addition to our resources, because we mostly speak English in the office, we're always happy to have other people who speak different languages to also help translate our resources to other languages. So I believe I spoke to Najah in terms of helping us get our resources to be translated to their language so that it could be more accessible to their community as well. So yeah.
Right. So
I'm happy
you are really,
to join
you are
in.
really international.
Yeah.
So that's all for the moment in the chat. And everybody is free to, if anyone has another question, we are still here, I think.
So maybe indeed all the different courses and training that you are using. So that I think it's also good. You said like face to face. You have some online. You have some kind of massive open online course or kind of possibility as well to massively spread as well your way and maybe the methodology as well that you're using. It can be good to apply this for other science. And indeed, it could be applied for light sources. It could be applied for neutron sources. You see, there are a lot of things that are the capacity of building those communities. And we know that, so in Africa, indeed, you have the chance to have this clear sky. So that's why astronomy for you is an asset. But indeed, there can be a lot of model that could be transposed to other way, a bit like what was asked my colleague. So
Yeah.
online course.
Yeah. Yeah. So with the hybrid option, so depending on the interests, so because we're a very small office and we're supposed to be serving an international community, we always try to we always try to focus our efforts on what is of interest to people. So if there is an interest in terms of us having certain discussions about the work that we do in certain topics, we're happy to do that. For example, our annual call for proposals, that is something that we've been talking about multiple times in the office about how we should actually package that so that people in other sciences can actually just take that whole process and be able to use it within their within their context as well. So these are things that we need other people to push us to do. So if you reach out to us and say, we want this, and then we have no choice but to do it, it's always very difficult to know what the community wants if the community does not tell us what they want. So we can only work on assumptions and we'll focus on what we think works, but then based on what people say that this would be something interesting for the community, then we're happy to then organize something that would ideally suit their needs.
Yeah, very good. So this is an open call. So now, so anyone listening to that could also answer and connect with Dr. Joshua. So Sirius, you have another question.
Yes, let me directly take that open call because just being part of the community, being part of the German Astronomical Society, I'm part of the International Astronomical Union. So I do know in the community of all the unions, there's the astronomers, there's the physicists, there's the chemists, there are the speleologists, so the people who do research on caves, there's the most interesting stuff. There's a lot of international unions, all of which meet in the International Science Council, so which is the really overarching body representing all of the sciences. Since I'm serving them as a fellow, I have been in contact with many of the people who work in these unions and represent these unions. I believe you are in IAU a prime example of how to make a lot out of a little. Because as you already said, you don't have extensive resources. You're not a team of 25 full-time people that are just doing nothing else but your job. That's not what you have. You have not so many people, but you're already doing so much that astronomy, and you can see that all of your endeavors, all of your programs, they run around the world, and many people know them much better than sometimes even the in the country astronomy outreach is working. So you're doing an amazing job there on making a lot with a little. And I believe what you should do is you should create content on how you do this. It might seem so easy, but exactly what you do is amazing, and a lot of people cannot do that. They don't know how to do this. And if only 20% of all of the scientific union in the International Science Council would do outreach in the way you would do, probably we would fight one of the biggest problems of humanity at the times right now, which is the disbelief and the losing trust in science part. Because what you do actively is strengthening trust in science, because people are actually, working with science or, experiencing science by any kind of project that you do. Everything from stargazing to, working with young astronomers and motivating young people, especially young women, to be part of this community, all of this work is developing trust in science again, which we're currently losing around the globe. So I believe if you could create some content that all of the other unions could use to learn from you, you have a massive impact. Giving you that and putting you a little bit on the spot, because if you already have the chance, what would you say would be the first content you would put together for other people to learn on how to do what you do?
I still think it would be our annual call for proposals. I mean, we've now seen a few other organizations like in Chile, why do I keep forgetting them now that I need to remember who they are? In Chile, they have recently launched a call actually that is very similar to what we have. But again, because it is not something where we engage with each other in terms of sharing how we went about doing this, because we've been doing it for 13 years, we're not quite sure what their processes are. But I think that call would firstly sort of kind of help people then avoid just constantly funding projects that don't have any impact. So the little that they do have when they can support projects, if we could maybe just share this with them, then that means that we would be guaranteed that as many little projects that are being carried out around the world would then be making an impact on them. So the annual call for proposals would be the first thing that I say we can package in such a way that every other union, organization, people with lots of money can basically adopt and then also try to implement all around the world.
Thank you.
But also on the ISC side, our previous deputy director is actually now the science director at the ISC. So
I've heard that.
Yeah, so organization, indeed, the people, and maybe infrastructure-wise as well. So there is, in South Africa, indeed, you have the SKA, so you have also the HACE in Namibia. I mean, there is quite a lot of infrastructure in present and future. So are you connected with them, or is there any interest to connect, or maybe for them to reach and to call for using your STEM and your capacity as well to potentially support them?
With the SKA, we have an indirect connection with them through our South African Radio Astronomy Observatory. So because the South African Radio Astronomy Observatory is part of the National Research Foundation, and we are also part of the National Research Foundation, that means we basically have access to the SKA site, but not directly with the SKA itself. But we do engage with the SKA in various things that come up with time. So we do have connections with SKA. With HES, I don't think we have direct, like as a whole organization, direct collaborations with them, but we might have worked with people who work there over time. I'm just not quite sure. But yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's always a thing of we don't actively approach observatories with the hopes that they would work with us, but we're also always open to working with observatories as well. So it's more of a mutual connection where we meet each other at a conference and then we tell them what they do, what we do, and then they're like, oh, this sounds very interesting. We'd love to do it in our country. And then we're like, yeah, let's work together. But yeah, we don't, like I said, we don't focus too much on the science of astronomy, but rather the development aspect of it. So it's always a thing of we try look at, if we say in, for example, in Namibia, it would be more of the community around the facilities. How can they work with them over us working with them directly? So yeah, we just encourage more partnership on the ground over big organizations working together, but then no one on the ground benefits.
Yeah, indeed. So that would be a good way as well for this ecosystem to be built. So looking at maybe PhD research or studies that could be in that field, and data, handling data, because I saw that some of the thematic as well that you have on those fields. So
Yeah.
then maybe the last question I will read as well from our audience, as well from Alex Reyes Rivera, so who is very grateful for the opportunity to receive this presentation. So he is, or she is, Alex could be a lady as well, so sorry. So a master student also who is hoping to have to get a PhD in astrophysics soon. So currently, so he's working on a project with the Great Basin Observation in Nevada, so in the United States, and wanted to ask so for any advice that could be for in expanding so the outreach component of the observatory there. So so he would like also to be delighted to develop a relationship so with you and with the organization. So emails you have. So now do you have any advice for expanding the outreach component in the US? Maybe just to contact you as well?
Well, I can get you in touch with our sister office that focuses on outreach and communication. We try not to step over each other's toes. So when it comes to outreach, we'd rather you just directly contact the outreach office. I know that they have what they call national organizing coordinators that focus on outreach activities in different countries. So I'm pretty sure that they might have someone who's in the US that is facilitating outreach within the US. So I'm happy to get you in touch with those people so you can talk to them when it comes to outreach and education.
Very good. So Alex, so we will also add the email of Dr. Joyful as well, so in the link. So I think that will help as well the communication.
Yeah.
You have it also in the chat. So excellent, very good. So I think we'll end up now. So to be so thanking you again for this very, very exciting presentation. And we have Alan. Maybe you have a last question, or Andreas. So Alan, so yeah, so sorry you had joined a bit late.
No, I was actually just clapping, but I think in terms of the outreach, what is so interesting about astronomy, including archaeoastronomy, which is why I have that background in my Zoom, is the spiritual element. I think that's what captures a lot of people. Certainly, there's a practical element to astronomy as it in ancient cultures, because farming is all about timing, and that's one of the reasons that astronomy was important thousands of years ago. So, but today, as Cyrus was saying, you look at the sky, and it's you can hardly not be affected in some spiritual way.
I fully agree. So wonderful. And indeed, it's really also connecting to the presentation or the question as well from Professor Waffle. So that was connecting the history of science and astronomy. Yeah, deeply related. So then I will simply now try to bring the next presentation from Professor Wafo, who will present live from Cameroon, and you will hear a bit more on this nonlinear science and its impact. So the view from Cameroon. So in general, this is what he will be presenting next September 25th. So same time, 10 p.m., the last Thursday of September. So we hope to meet you there, so all, and we thank you again to be part of this community, so engaging, so people in this universe, in this space. So thank you, everyone, and thank you, Dr. Joyful.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
One.
Yes.